Yep. So I just started the recording. Let's see
Okay.
here.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome to the technically second video of the Underground, but this will probably be the first video that gets published because I'm still editing the last video. And this is going to be future news for December 2024. I was posting those on my channel earlier this year, and I've been doing that for at least a year now, I think. It's pretty fun. And we all did it this month. So what we're going to go over is some of the data that we have, whether we think that it's actually going to happen or probable. And then maybe we'll do a post review in a month and see what happens. But this is one of the funnest things to do, I think, for me, because public news is always something that there's no tasker that's there. You can't fake it. You have to put yourself out on the line. And there is no feedback for a while, and there may never be feedback. And I think that's why it's so awesome. Joe McMoneagle talked about it in his book that the government program would do that. They're like, what is good utility for this skill? And, doing public news was one of those. So I think this will be really fun. The tasking, I was aware of the tasking. Were you guys aware of the tasking as well when you did it?
Yes.
Yeah. So in that blind to unblind protocol I came up with, that'd be F4, which is like, the tasking, but you technically don't know what it is you viewed. And that was to describe the most impactful public news event of December 2024 that will be feedbacked. So I've kind of played around with this for a while. Interesting or impactful, or, will it be feedback? Will it not be feedbacked? If it's feedbacked, it implies that you become aware of the information at some point, right? And if there could be a news event somewhere in some part of the world that's massively impactful that we won't get feedback on. So I'm trying to come up with this, and we can all work together to kind of do that. Should we do quick rundown of what the stuff is, or should we just dive into everyone's data real quick?
Whatever you like. Maybe do the data and then
Yeah,
examine it afterwards.
that might
Yeah.
work best because I think there's quite a few events in here. So anybody want to
Yeah.
go first?
Um, I'll go. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Cool. Pop up this.
All right. Cool. All right, get it going.
Starting off
Uh,
strong.
so on chaos, and what do we got here? Start off with impressions of. Oh, and so I was unblind to it. It's the first time I've done an unblind target, so it's kind of interesting experience for me. I usually work blind. It didn't seem to matter. Data came in the same way it normally did, so I don't know. It didn't seem all that different than doing it blinded, so it's kind of neat to see. So, and impressions of Droopy, Wafting, Kingly, Centurion, Robotics, Dizzying Heights, Packaged Grandstand Freefall, image of a crown, and then a poof. It was and like overlay of a mushroom cloud. It wasn't like an explosion to me, and it looked like gray broccoli. I thought was interesting. But it was more like a poof. And then what's called the word Washington. Washington. I don't know. I thought like maybe Washington, but that word. Next page.
I also get a big bomb going off this month or something like that, like some sort of big explosion. And I think it's kind of common to see it in the timeline. It's classic where remote viewers always see nuclear bombs and stuff going off. And I don't know if it's going to happen, but hopefully it doesn't.
Yep.
It
Again, for me,
never has before. Yeah.
it was the imagery. I don't know if it was an actual thing, but that's what it was. Imagery like that, that poof feeling.
August, I had a mushroom cloud, and I was talking about a hydrogen bomb going off, and the Ukrainian forces, and I called it out in the region. The Ukrainian forces hijacked electric batteries from cars and turned them into mini hydrogen bombs.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, so there really was a little mini mushroom cloud and stuff. So maybe, hopefully, it's something small like that.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's not quite like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
We got quickly stage 2. Smells and tastes of charcoal, a steamy temperature, fine dust granules. Dimensional is like a football field size event, and sound supersonic. Other impressions of bravery, persistent nomenclature, which is odd, battered, piston rings, and swell the ocean. Oklahoma and Virginia, other words that came to mind. Next page. impressions. So I try to do visuals. I'm not a great visual guy. I had this one visual, it was like a blender, like two like they're spinny guys, but it was like a blender was what came to mind. And then also a pretty clear image of a pant leg, and it was pulled up, and you could see hairs on the leg. And it said, in my mind, so picked apart, and there's a focus on the lower leg and the foot, and the fact that it was hairy. Other impressions: swing, igloo, climb, mastodon, perched high, suitcase, dispel notions, cemetery, resurrect, bonus footage, grip, enthralled, and spore cloud. And again, that word of Washington. Next page. Here we have a aesthetic impact of cool, golden, merriment, climb, truncated, wide open. Emotional impact of dramatic, open hole, business affected, superstitious, candy, Nalgene. And analytic overlay of a bridge collapse, and that Washington word again. I put the exclamation mark. I was surprised again. And emit, just things that came to me: choke, understand, topical procedure, widespread, forgiving and understanding, and search and reckoning. Summary and extras here. Next page, we got so what's the significance of this Washington? And I was asking myself, float, bubbles, parade, maximum overdrive, stunning, foam, and necropsy or biopsy, allegiance, stars and stripes, and desecrate memorial, wise chatter, relatives, word unixel, UNIEXL, I don't know, National Guard, respect, wealth, tradition, and analytic overlay of Soviet sleeper agents. And then from all that, I made a summary and said, I think there's going to be multiple events. One, something falls fast from very high into a packed area, causes a dust cloud, or robots involved, Centurion word, possibly at a cemetery memorial event like Remembrance Day, a biological effect with a focus on the lower leg, the image, and picked apart. And also that a sinkhole affects business in Washington. That word is significant. And it all felt familiar to me, like USA kind of feel.
That's great.
Kind of fast, but that's basically what.
That's great. Should we move on to Nina's since I have it here?
Sure.
Cool. So it looks like she was showing that she was front loaded on the tasking and was going for it. She had a structure that was man-made. She's showing it there: gray, hard, solid, smooth, curve, blue-gray, masculine feel, warm stone, water, whooshing, and lapping. This, I was really excited to see this because I had something very similar. It looks like she has something central that is shooting out from like in all directions. It's sudden within. There's a force. It's going upward, outside. There's this motion. It's raining down, scattering pieces, debris. This sounds a lot like what you might have picked up on as well. Page 3, there's an impact force. It's sudden. Same thing, smashing into the side that she was talking about. It looks like there's some sort of structure or building that's gray, exploding in some way. And just reading through the rest. Yeah, I think that's the premise. Her stage 4, still gray, solid. There's that impact or force. There's this thing on like a center point, which I think she mentioned on the last pages as well. Slamming, nature, water, structure. So I think this implies that there's a water aspect next to the structure or located by it. And I think in chat, you guys have been theorizing like what that could be. And she makes a movement command to move to the center and describe. There's a red center point. There's water there, magnetic, AOL, the moon tides, natural, chain reaction, shock, pushed, and a word I can't read. Unlodged. That's what it is. Page 6, sudden shock, imploded, natural event. She's trying to do a timeline probe here. She gets the 7th. And the 7th is that D-Day? Ooh, we're going to put this on there and I'm not going to know what D-Day is. But yeah, that was basically the start of World War II. First 2 weeks at December, or no, that was Pearl Harbor, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's what it was. First 2 weeks of December, show me something true and important. Sudden, it's in a small area. Something gets activated. Circular, seismic, magnetic, and moon and water. Page 6, but technically, it's page 7. I think that we're missing page 4, but she might not publish that for a reason. Move 100 meters above and describe what's the movement command. She once again is seeing this kind of central point thing with a ring around it. Gray, white, one side, water, blue, singular, one structure, energy from within and the side. What people will be saying about it in a day. It's a recurrence. What will I be saying about the actual event? An impact, sudden. What would I regret not recording if I ended the session now? One solid impact in the ocean, and a lighthouse. That's what she saw. So sounds like a lot of overlapping data.
Pretty cool.
Awesome. Kyle.
Okay, so I actually tried freestyle, aka cowboy, for my for the A and B. So I did for like news articles or stories. I try to break it down that way because this is my first time ever doing the news. So just trying to figure out how to do it. So basically start off with my ideograms there. So yeah, I did it. I recorded myself and then translated it to paper. So that was an interesting exercise. Okay, so next page. Okay, so this first story, so my stories A and B, I believe might be connected. So this first one is with 3 guys. It was, I saw it in video format. So I'm hoping my feedback is video to confirm that. But the guy in the front, they were all very nicely dressed men. They got out of or were standing next to a very nice black car on a busy street. One of the guys was holding a briefcase. It involved a female. I didn't necessarily see her there, but either her presence or just something revolving around this female was important. It's about a formula. There's a dispute about a formula. I don't know what the formula is, but I'm guessing scientific, maybe something climate change is what it felt like. So I also was getting this, one of the guys might have like a limp or a funny foot, like maybe use a cane or have like a limp. So yeah, something about finding the unfindable molecules. Yeah, and they're all colleagues to some degree. The guy in the back was holding a gun, but I think it was more of like to specify the importance of him being like a guard, standing behind them. He was more of a guard. Okay, next page.
I'm interested to hear how your cowboy went. Like the experience of doing it. I'll probe you after recording. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a neat way to do it.
Ooh, here, let me see if I can read this. Okay, yeah, this news article's in video form. The 3 men is a guard and one's a guard. One's holding a briefcase. Basically, I kind of already did that, so we can move to the next one. Okay, now this one. This involved a shorter, chubbier, I believe Asian man, dark hair, standing next to a taller man. AOL Trump, remind me of Trump. Something revolving around the Cold War, frigid fight, something very cold. The news article has an AI generated headline and picture. So it feels like it might be like a social media news outlet article, just because it felt like stock image for the headline, for the news article as far as imagery goes. Tippy Square, I have a feeling this might have to do with something in the Arctic, something that ties in with that first article about maybe the ice sheet, something along that line, something scientific yet involving maybe drones, it all kind of ties together, those two stories. And I'm not sure how, so I'm excited to see how. So, and those happen at the beginning. I actually have wrote down in my notes that the first article was December 2nd, which what is today, the 1st or the 2nd?
Isn't it still November? Is it December already?
That might be
Oh, it's December 1st. Wow.
December
Okay.
1st now.
Cool.
So, and Tippy Square, I don't know if it was something about something tipping, but that was, I kept getting those words, Tippy Square. And it felt very propaganda-ish. I don't know if it's because the AI generated stock image made me, have those feelings, but either way.
What if we see something shocking and your data implies that it was AI and that we shouldn't trust it? That'd be even cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is C.
See? Yeah. Okay. So on this one, so the first two I did freestyle. This one I just did on paper and I tried my new template. I actually started off with mapping the 4 news stories. I was trying to do that in a timeline, and I end up turning into like a crypto chart. So I had to just go with that. I had to go with the session took me there. So the sounds I heard, the stage 2 data was coins falling. So not necessarily, I don't believe that means the price falls or whatever. I think that was just kind of the symbolism, really. It would probably be in the morning. So this crypto event is going to be large movements in shorter periods of time, instead of like saying like a lot of small movements, but a lot in one day. It's almost like a glitch. There's going to be like a glitch in software, and it's going to make people kind of like question. So it's either going to be go up really, really high, or really, really low, really quickly in big chunks. About the 3rd week of December.
That'll be big news.
Yeah. So something very odd, not necessarily it being a certain price point, but just the behavior and the way it is going is odd. So I kept getting like balance beam, and then birthday candles. And so, yeah. So it appears to be going up, but I think it's more about the odd behavior.
Did you autonomically draw this?
Yes.
Awesome. That's what I do every morning for the foreign currency trading, is I try and like draw what the graph looks like and then trade on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was going to say, couldn't we actually take that and make money off it?
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, like the common person.
Be worth trying.
Yeah.
Okay, and that kind of birthday candles to AOL. I just felt like I had to get that out of the way,
They're called, why am I forgetting this? Japanese trading candles or something?
Candles.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, like the open, high, low, close sticks. That could be a connection there, where it shows like opens
candles.
and close. Yeah.
So yeah, it gives uneasy feelings, not good or bad, but just it's odd behavior. Yeah, about the 3rd week of December. So
Awesome.
And the 4th and final. Actually, this one was really boring. It seemed like a backfill story. So I know it says most impactful, but this is all I could get. So I think it's going to be a slow news week, which is probably great. Really. You know what they say, uninteresting, right? It's good. So it feels like it's going to be something about like drilling or fracking. It's going to be a backfill story. It's probably going to have a picture of somebody wearing an aspirator, bulldozer, some drilling in the background. Yeah, it's not that exciting, but I feel like that's going to be probably most exciting news that week.
That's pretty cool. Oh, so you did one session per week.
I was trying to.
That's great. Yeah.
And then that's when I started mapping it out. I got the crypto. So like, I still try to keep it that way, but, and it's a neutral. I was trying to like also forecast the sentiment, like the news article, what Google would say about it.
Perfect. And just to share here, I really like the trying to pick out like the timeline or the date or like getting it into like a specific window. And that was David Powell's challenge when it came down to news, was like when you're doing prophecy in RV, you just describe, you don't name. But like in prophecy, it's really important to get specific. So you name names, right? And that's what we're doing here. And like we're getting specific with time. And yeah, it ups the ante, but it also means that you can't like overfit your data, which is pretty fun. So
Yeah, it's
love
good
it.
check.
That's a neat way to do it.
What's up, Jeff? Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, you're on mute. That's why.
Hi, Jeff.
So you guys talked about everything and got everything. I mean, this is pretty much the end of the meeting, right?
We're halfway through.
Okay.
Yeah. I got your stuff up here and I do have your YouTube here if you want me to scroll through it or anything. You got a lot of stuff.
Well, the deal is Kyle just talked about the drilling, and I also saw something with an oil rig off of Iceland, some failing structure in a big storm. So I thought it was interesting that she saw something with fracking, and I saw something with an oil rig, which they, of course, are going to try to cover up because of all the environmental issues. So, and then the Bitcoin thing was really interesting to see on her data. But I mean, I really didn't have a lot, but it is kind of cool to see a little overlap in my data on several of your guys's sets of data.
I love how you're naming it all. 6+ Richter on earthquake in Japan.
Mm.
Yep.
Well, that's pretty. Yeah, but that's pretty common. I mean, Japan. Let's face it. That's the earthquake capital.
Do they have earthquakes that often?
Usually they got about 2 or 3 a year. That's at least 5-point plus.
In winter?
And I don't know. I don't think the time of the year makes a difference. I think it's proximity to the moon and the solar positioning.
What's the major hush hush?
The oil rig and the oil rig failing.
Okay.
They have a lot of oil rigs that are failing, and they're not going to tell anybody because you know, catastrophic environmental damage. So you'll hear about it, but you won't hear all the details. It's kind of like that Chinese thing that just happened where the guy was dragging an anchor for 100 miles. You heard about it, but you're not going to hear a lot about it. So I'm kind of wondering if something happens in that particular area that causes a big wave or a big storm and causes that rig to fail catastrophically. So I don't know.
That seems to match up with the other explosion data that we've had where it's a concrete structure by water.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That's where I say the overlap was really interesting to see. So I don't know if I've hit it, but I definitely got part of it. But Donald Trump Jr. falling in the snow was also interesting. I didn't see anybody talk about that, but he was in a paved area with snow on the ground and something happened to him. So I don't know. I don't know if he gets hurt or if he just fell, but something happens and he hits the ground. So the rest of it is just, small stuff. I didn't see anything really big for the month of December.
You want to speak to the other ones or all done?
What's that?
Are you all done or this terrorist attack in Michigan?
Well, the terrorist act is just the local. It's just a small event where, a couple people decide that America is bad, and of course it's going to hit the news and then go away. That I don't think it's a major issue, and I just think it's a small cell. I mean, considering what's out there, this is really just a very small blip in the radar. The alien activity, though, that's going to be have you guys watched the news on all the drones?
Mm-mm.
It's in
Well,
Arizona, right? I've heard about that.
no, it's
Okay.
in Germany, England, uh, all the major bases are getting buzzed by drones. And the alien activity is, I shouldn't say alien activity. The activity is getting hushed up. They're trying to withhold all the activity. But part of it's because the major companies that are holding the pieces are trying to capitalize on it before the reveal. So you know, you don't want to, there's a group that's trying to hold everything back until the bitter end. So this is what I mean by alien activity is hushed. It's literally getting, you check the feeds, you're going to find out that a lot of activity, a lot of pictures, and a lot of data is getting taken off of YouTube and Google because somebody doesn't want people to see that. So I don't
Juicy.
know how, well, I don't know how you guys feel about aliens. It's just, there's a major red flag going on, and I can't tell the difference between what's real and what's not anymore, just because I question everything.
And now with AI, we don't know if the videos are real or fake.
Exactly.
And like
Exactly.
right as that came out, now we're getting a flood of good videos. I do think that's just coincidence, or it's possibly done on purpose to make us doubt that those videos are real.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, even if one out of 100 is real, you're going to have so much false, it just kind of buries and hides the real. So it's
Awesome.
gonna be interesting.
Anything else?
I'm currently doing something on Mount Rainier. I don't know if it's for December. I have an event coming, Mount Rainier and possibly Mount Adams. I just don't think it's for December. I'm thinking it's going to be for January or February. So,
Interesting.
but it's going to be soon. Hopefully, you don't have any family in any of the Lahar Flow areas.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Kyle's laughing.
Well, I just got done messaging somebody about going to Mount Adams or Mount Rainier to look for UFOs just this morning. So, you know.
So I've got a absolutely stunning view of Mount Rainier. I didn't know it until all the leaves fell, and I walk outside and the sun is literally coming up from behind Mount Rainier. It's breathtaking. So as soon as I go out there and chop down the trees, and what I
Awesome.
want to do is I want to set up a live feed, because if I have a live feed, when that sucker goes off, it'll be worth millions.
You should do that.
Yeah. Well, between that and the ducks, have the ducks in the foreground and have Mount Rainier in the background blowing up. I mean, it's going to be great. So, but yeah, Mount Rainier's got issues coming. So
I will link to your YouTube this video, which is you recording this live, when I get it uploaded to our shared channel.
okay. So the Mount Rainier discussion, I'm doing that this morning after I get done with this. So
Awesome.
I'll get it to you as soon as I can.
Sweet. Cool. So I'm last. I knew that I was doing the tasking, which is to describe most impactful event. I only do one event now. I was doing like a stack of events when I started, but I kind of like halved all of the other events, and then the main event that I would focus on, do like a 30-minute session, which this was a 30-minute session. Would always be pretty good. So I've just been doing one. And I do describe a big energetic explosion going off. somewhere where there's this object that comes down from a very, very high height, and it's cylindrical with sort of like a cap nose, but it's not like proprioceptively, it felt like it was like, I don't know, like this big or something. There's like multiple aspects of it with rings on both the object and the explosion. And I think, Chaos, you had said something about supersonic. The energy that was coming out of this, because it hits land, the energy that's coming out of it, it's going in these spherical bubbles where the bubbles that are on the outside are going slower than the bubbles on the inside. So it's like this energy kind of like whacks itself, and it creates this like crackling, like pop, 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 pop sound. So it sounds, there's this echoing, thunderous sound, and it's due to the movement of the stuff kind of like compressing in on itself and then like taking over. And it was such like a weird experience of space and homogeny and, you know, like three-dimensional waves. It was really cool to experience. I had 3 different layers of it, so it was interesting. There were like 3 different things coming down the land. These are like little structures and stuff. And the first layer was only like about 200 feet off the ground. The second layer was 2,000 feet, and the third had to be like 60 to 90,000 feet. It was way up there, and it was like a tri-staged sort of event happening. I did see it coming from somewhere in like the Moscow region and going deep within Ukraine. I think this is the occupied territory in their war, right? And when I just did my map probe, it was this. I know I'm doing news, so that's super biased about like where it could be or what's going on. And I could have gotten the directions wrong. I don't know. But that's essentially what I was seeing. And when I first pulled it up in my space, so I'm still doing technical remote viewing just like this. But then as soon as I open up my ideogram as a data packet, that's what it felt like. There was like this flat zone right here, and then it went up on the sides. And as I like felt around and stuff and felt it proprioceptively, it just felt like, I kept saying in the session, just chaos, where things normally are like vertical and stuff. There's just so many facets all over the place. So I just generated these images with Midjourney real quick, but it felt like just absolutely destroyed city environment, which is not great. There's my transcript. What was I think that's about it for what it is. I don't think that this is very probable. I do think that it's possibly like in a potential timeline, maybe, but I don't necessarily think we're going to see it. And the biggest thing that I thought was interesting was there's this multi-staged attack type thing going on. And it reminded, like an hour or two later, I was watching something on the Israeli attack where the fence got blown up, the wall, and then they came in different ways and stuff. So it was kind of like that, where normally it was doing some weird West Point thing where like on West Point, you know, normally you start with like a 2D battlefield, and then you start to get a little more advanced with topology, where there's like the high ground and the low ground, which is like in that Disney movie, what's it called? I have no idea. The Asian one, where like they shoot the rocket up and then like there's an avalanche that comes down and kills a bunch of people. So things like that. And then it was saying this is another level of warfare that hasn't really been thought about, where we no longer have to protect just this 2D landscape or this 2D landscape with height differences, but now there's from the air. And it's not just from the air in like one aspect, it's like from the air in all aspects. So the map that you have to understand was this like big 3-dimensional hologram of space, where you're really protecting all different levels of the airspace, from, you know, drones that only go 200 feet to 60 to 90,000 feet or so. It was just a really interesting exercise. But I'm not too confident in my data for December.
I got a quick question on that. So
Yeah.
since I'm a big fan of military and things that go boom, can you feel radiation or see energetic radiation?
I feel it.
On these particular explosions? Are we talking nuclear warheads, or are we talking just chemical? Because the chemical, the recent missiles that they got with the hypersonic would be ideal for this situation. You just have a standard warhead dropping into the city from 3 different levels. That would definitely overwhelm their technology, but
I didn't think it felt nuclear, but it felt like there's like one big thing going. And then I think I described it like a shotgun shell, where after it gets to its target region, then it splits open or splits apart. And there's like multiple things
right,
that come down to target
right.
areas.
That's a standard MIRV warhead, depending on the type of bomb and the type of payload. I mean, you could do that
Oh,
with
I
the
thought they were all
chemical.
like singles. I don't know anything about it. Oh,
Yeah,
so they do split
yeah.
apart and like we'll find additional targets or
Exactly. So it
interesting.
reaches a certain altitude, splits apart, and then you have like 13 to 26 warheads that'll drift down to take care of whatever targets. If it's a non-nuclear warhead, it can still home in on particular targets across a wide swath. If it's a nuclear target and you have, well, at that point, it doesn't matter. If it's a nuclear, then it's going to fall where it falls. It's just the non-nuclear just will home in on whatever targets, but you got 26 warheads per payload. So every payload that makes it through the air defense, which is why they try to overwhelm, will do just an incredible amount of damage.
This jogged my memory. So the timeline that I had for it was the 4th going into the 5th, so probably overnight in a couple days from now. And it felt like this is why I think that it's probably not going to happen, because it was so big that there's this line that shot up, and then there's all these like circles. I started to probe the circles that popped up on each side of this line, and they were different countries. And it was like the formation where this was a big event that I described as like Pearl Harbor, where it was some sort of thing that crossed a line or a threshold, and that threshold has been crossed. So like mutually assured destruction, like you don't go past that. Some sort of international thing was just too big, and it caused a bunch of other countries to come in and basically take a side, and that escalated things to like a global thing. That's why I don't know if that actually did happen. That would be like the start of World War III. I don't think I'm going to get feedback on mine.
Definitely newsworthy.
It would be newsworthy. But, yeah.
Well, if it happens, you'll definitely know right away what it is and what happened.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting. Even if it's non-nuclear, it'll be interesting because this is war and this is interesting. It really is a shame that we don't get to see more of what's going on, because you guys would be amazed. I would
So
be amazed. I got family there, so
Yeah.
it kind of sucks.
So I just predicted war during a wartime. It's like saying a hurricane in the summer in the South.
Right.
Like, yeah. I did call the region and stuff. So yeah. But we do have 2 other explosions talking about concrete structure by water, potentially the sonic booms associated with it. And then you coming in with the oil rig stuff as well. Those are interesting. And I do wonder if that's all technically connected. And I'm just sitting here like AOLing like crazy or something.
Well, that was my other question. Is I swore I read somebody else's information about a meteor coming in, which I thought was interesting because, man, I tell you what, I know it's coming, and I just don't know how far out it is, and I don't know how big it is. That's the other thing. So it would be interesting to know if there is a meteorite going to do a water strike, because holy moly, that would definitely take care of an oil rig. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's a meteorite that's a water strike. So
I
and
think
that would,
Chaos has had that, didn't it?
Talked about dizzying heights, free fall, and
Like dust.
swell ocean. Yeah, fine dust granules.
Yeah.
yeah, that's an ocean strike. Ocean strike could be devastating. I mean, that'll affect, if it's in the North Sea, it'll affect Britain, Iceland, and the East Coast. The East Coast will get hammered. So
I'd be curious too if something happened with that like sheet bed or that ice sheet, and then that new base that they found that they've been talking about, and if they would blame it on a meteor or vice versa.
what new
Interesting.
base?
NASA mapped an old underground US base or Russian base. Cold War. They said Cold War. I think it was a US base, but over there in Greenland maybe. underwater. It's like half underwater. It's like really strange. I'll try to find the story.
You didn't know about that?
No. Well,
I
it
don't
just,
know about that.
You don't-
Oh, God. I guess my tinfoil is on too tight, guys. I should have shared with you.
no, I just saw that. I was like, that's interesting. Why has no one ever talked about this before? Because they act like it's like just kind of like newly discovered or newly discovered again. And it's like, no, that seems like a big deal.
No, it's new. It's just something newsworthy. The news must be having a slow news day because, wow, God, that takes me back to my high school days. Yeah, that's been around for a long time. Uh, you guys heard about the guy who was drilling the holes for that though, didn't you? He died probably about 10 years ago, and he left a deathbed video, and you didn't hear about that? Oh.
Oh,
Yeah,
what
the
was
guy who, what's that?
what was on his video?
It's just they described how they did it. They had tunnels going everywhere. They had this big machine that would bore down through the ice and then eventually hit the, they haul it out a huge area down there. And
Huh.
yeah, it was kind of cool. I don't know if it's still available. I think Google took it down. Not Google, but YouTube. Isn't the YouTube and Google the same thing?
I think YouTube owns Google, or no, Google owns YouTube.
Anyways, they're going through and cleaning out a lot of the old videos. So a lot of the stuff that I saw earlier is gone now. So I guess it wasn't user friendly or something. I don't know.
Do you guys have any closing thoughts for December? No?
Nothing in particular. It's
Think we-
pretty interesting. I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, this is always something that's kind of hard to do because big news is often repeated too, right? I mean, like explosions, whatever else, it's hard to say, but I don't know. It's interesting to put it out there and see what happens.
Can we have a follow-up after December? Like
Yeah.
do a quickie review?
And if we do want to do it every month, then we could kind of schedule it at the same time where like we start with a quick review of like what hits did we have and
Good idea.
then go into the next month.
That's a good idea.
It's
Cool.
good practice.
I'm going to stop the recording. Sound good?
Okay.
Cool.
Bye, everybody.